Jesus never wasted a story. Every parable he told was aimed at something, at a specific audience, a specific blindness, a specific moment in the unfolding of his ministry. And when you lay all of them out, all 40 plus, something nobody tells you becomes visible. The parables are not a collection of moral lessons. They are a strategy, a deliberate, escalating sequence of stories that begins with an open invitation and ends with an ultimatum. And the more the religious leaders rejected him, the darker the parables got. That is what we are going to track today. Not just what each parable mean, but what Jesus was doing with them, and why the order they were told in changes everything. There is one parable Jesus treated differently from every other. After telling it, his disciples came to him privately and asked, "Why do you speak to the crowds in parables at all?" His answer is one of the most important things he ever said. Matthew 13:11. Because it has been given to you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. The parables were not designed to make things clearer for everyone. They were designed to reveal to those who were genuinely seeking and to conceal from those who had already decided not to see. A parable is a door, and whether it opens or stays shut depends entirely on what you bring to it. Then he explains the parable of the sower. The seed is the word of the kingdom. The soil is the condition of the heart that receives it. Hard soil, the word never gets in. Rocky soil, it gets in but has no root, so the first difficulty kills it. Thorny soil, it gets in but the worries of life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke it. Good soil, it takes root and multiplies 30, 60, 100 times over. And here's what he says after explaining it. Whoever has ears, let them hear. Not everyone does. In Matthew 13, Jesus tells 6 parables in a single sitting. All of them begin with the same phrase, "The kingdom of heaven is like." The mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds, becomes the largest of all garden plants. The kingdom begins invisibly. It begins in a manger, in a carpenter's workshop, in a dozen men following a teacher through Galilee. But what it becomes is disproportionate to where it started. The leaven. A woman hides a small amount of yeast in a large batch of flour. The whole batch rises. The kingdom works from the inside, quietly, without announcement, until the whole thing is changed. The hidden treasure. A man finds treasure buried in a field, covers it back up, and in his joy goes and sells everything he has to buy the field. Joy is the thing most people miss in this parable. He does not reluctantly give up his possessions. He sells them joyfully, because what he found is worth infinitely more than what he gave up. The pearl of great price. A merchant searching for fine pearls finds one of extraordinary value and sells everything to buy it. Same dynamic as the hidden treasure, but the opposite journey. One man stumbles onto the treasure by accident. The merchant has been searching. 2 very different paths to the same discovery. Same response. Everything. The net. A net thrown into the sea catches fish of every kind. At the end of the age, the angels will separate the righteous from the wicked. Not now. Now the net holds both. The sorting is not your job. It is not yet time. The 3 parables in Luke 15 were told in direct response to a specific accusation. The Pharisees and scribes were grumbling. This man welcomes sinners and eats with them. So Jesus tells them 3 stories in a row. A shepherd leaves 99 sheep to find the one that is lost. When he finds it, he carries it home on his shoulders and throws a party. The lost sheep. A woman loses 1 of 10 coins, sweeps the whole house, searches until she finds it, then calls her neighbors to celebrate the lost coin. Then the most famous story he ever told. A man has 2 sons. The younger one demands his inheritance early, which in that culture was the equivalent of saying to his father, "I wish you were dead." The father gives it to him. The son wastes it in a distant country, ends up feeding pigs and eating their food. He comes to himself and decides to go home and beg to be taken on as a servant. The father sees him while he is still a long way off, and he runs. In 1st century Middle Eastern culture, a man of dignity did not run. Running meant lifting your robe. It was undignified. The father runs anyway. He falls on his son's neck. He calls for the robe, the ring, the sandals, the party. The older son refuses to go in. He has been here the whole time, he says. He has never disobeyed, and no one threw him a party. The father's answer is quiet and devastating. "Son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate because your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found." Jesus never tells us whether the older son went in. The story stops there, because the story is being told to the Pharisees. They are the older son, and Jesus is leaving the ending open. The door is still open. Will they go in? As Jesus moves toward Jerusalem, the parables get darker. The invitation has been extended. The response has been largely rejection, and now the parables begin to carry warnings. The unforgiving servant. A king forgives a servant an impossible debt. 10,000 talents, an amount no individual could repay in multiple lifetimes. That servant goes out and finds a fellow servant who owes him 100 denarii, a few months' wages, and throws him in prison. When the king hears, he hands the first servant over to the jailers. Jesus says, "This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart." The parable of grace has a demand embedded in it. The tenants. A landowner plants a vineyard and leases it to tenants. He sends servants to collect his fruit. They beat them, kill them. He sends his son. They kill him too. Jesus asks, "What will the owner do to those tenants?" "He will bring those wretches to a wretched end." The Pharisees know the parable is about them. Matthew tells us they looked for a way to arrest him. The wedding banquet. A king prepares a wedding feast for his son. The invited guests refuse to come. He sends his servants again. They kill the servants. The king destroys their city and sends his servants to the street corners to invite anyone they can find, good and bad alike. The hall fills with guests, but one man is found without wedding clothes. He is thrown out into the darkness. The invitation was open to everyone, but there is still a requirement. You can't come in on your own terms. The last parables Jesus tells before the cross are all about the same thing: readiness. 10 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. 5 brought extra oil. 5 did not. The bridegroom was delayed. The 5 without oil went to buy more. While they were gone, he came. The door shut. "Lord, Lord, open to us. I do not know you." 3 servants given different amounts. 2 invest and double what they were given. 1 buries his out of fear. The 2 are called good and faithful. The one who buried his is called wicked and lazy. What you do with what you are given while you are waiting, that is the question. And the last parable of all, the sheep and the goats. Not even called a parable by most readers. It reads more like a vision, but it is the final answer to the question the parables have been building toward across 3 years of ministry. The Son of Man separates the nations as a shepherd separates sheep from goats. To the sheep on his right, "I was hungry, and you fed me, thirsty, and you gave me drink, a stranger, and you welcomed me." When did we do this? Whenever you did it to the least of these. To the goats on his left, the same words, the same answer, the same moment, but the opposite response. 40 parables. The same invitation in all of them. The kingdom is here. It starts small. It costs everything. It is worth everything. The door is open. The only question the parables ever ask is whether you will go in. If this opens something up for you, subscribe to, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment. Even one word helps more people find this. God bless you.